When John White reached Roanoke, 115 people had vanished. Their homes stood empty. One word remained. Carved into a post was Croatoan, not a plea, not a warning, just a destination, or something worse. England wanted a foothold in the New World. Roanoke would become its first permanent settlement. An earlier English outpost arrived in 1585. Food ran thin. Relations with nearby communities deteriorated. The 1585 settlers abandoned Roanoke and sailed home. 2 years later, England tried again, with families this time. In 1587, 115 men, women, and children crossed the Atlantic under Governor John White. There, Eleanor Dare gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. White returned to England for supplies. He promised to come back quickly. History would not allow it. England faced the Spanish Armada. Ships were needed for war. White's rescue voyage was delayed for 3 years. In August 1590, White's ships approached Roanoke through darkness, shallow water, and gathering weather. They fired trumpets and called into the trees. Roanoke answered with nothing. The landing party found an abandoned fort. Grass had grown through its floors. The colony was gone. There were no clear signs of a hurried attack. Houses had been dismantled, not simply destroyed. Before leaving, White had arranged a signal. If they moved under threat, they would carve a Maltese cross. No Maltese cross appeared anywhere. Yet Croatoan had been carved carefully in 2 separate places. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island and a people known to the English. It could mean relocation, but storms, damaged anchors, and an impatient crew blocked the search. White never reached Croatoan. White sailed away without finding his daughter Eleanor, his granddaughter Virginia, or anyone else. John White never returned to Roanoke. His written account became the colony's final surviving voice. The legend says a colony vanished overnight. The record says something more complicated and more disturbing. The simplest theory is that the settlers moved south to Croatoan and lived among its people. The Croatoans had previously aided the English. Their island offered fishing, shelter, and familiar allies. The problem is devastatingly simple. No excavation has proven that Roanoke settlers reached Croatoan. White wrote that the colony intended to move about 50 miles inland, away from Roanoke's exposed coast. At a site near Albemarle Sound, archaeologists found clues that may place English survivors far from Roanoke. Among the finds was a gold ring marked with a lion and a lily, linked to 16th century English design. The ring could support contact or survival. It cannot identify who wore it or when it arrived. A centuries-old map owned by John White seemed to hide symbols beneath paper patches. Imaging exposed a small red and blue fort symbol beneath a patch, inland from Roanoke. If the symbol marked a destination, Roanoke's people may have split, relocated, and survived in fragments. Later English accounts described reports of Europeans living among inland communities. None could be verified as Roanoke settlers. At Jamestown, William Strachey wrote that the Powhatan had killed Roanoke survivors. His account came decades later. Strachey offered no physical evidence, no names, and no location. Historians still debate what he actually knew. Roanoke had been surrounded by political tension, broken alliances, hunger, and fear. Any move could have turned deadly. If the settlers were attacked at Roanoke, why dismantle their homes? Why leave Croatoan instead of a distress cross? They may have simply been overwhelmed by drought, hunger, disease, and a coastline that could not feed them.
Climate records indicate one of the region's worst droughts in centuries struck during Roanoke's earliest years. Drought would have strained crops, fishing, trade, and every fragile relationship the settlers depended on. The dismantled houses begin to look less like abandonment and more like preparation for a difficult migration. A colony of 115 people left one road. No list of names, no direction beyond an island, no final explanation. For White, Croatoan may have been enough. The settlers expected him to follow. He never could. If they reached another community, the colony may not have vanished at all. It may have ceased being English. Later observers reported people with European features in coastal communities. The reports are real. Their meaning remains uncertain. Centuries of retelling transformed Roanoke into a ghost story. The actual evidence is quieter and harder to solve. Today, Croatoan is used as a horror symbol. In 1590, it was a real place with real people. Behind the mystery were families, children, workers, and names that survive only on a ship's list. Archaeologists continue searching shorelines, forests, and old maps for evidence small enough to survive 400 years. Roanoke's coast erodes, floods, and shifts. Parts of the original landscape may now lie underwater. A pin, a shard, a ring, a mark on paper. Each discovery can change the story, then raise two new questions. Croatoan remains the only message left by the colony itself. Everything else came later, filtered through others. The careful carving suggests intention. Whoever left it believed someone would read it and understand where to look. Did they reach Croatoan? Did they go inland? Did they divide? Or did the message survive after they did not? Relocation explains the carving. Conflict explains the silence. Drought explains the need to leave. None closes the case. For more than 4 centuries, Roanoke has remained a place where evidence stops just before the answer. It is an empty settlement, dismantled homes, a missing child, and a single word facing the sea. Croatoan. Maybe a destination, a survivor's instruction, or the last trace of a plan erased by time. From above, Roanoke is a thin strip between forest and ocean. A small colony could disappear into either. 400 years of storms, war, erosion, and retelling may have destroyed the evidence before anyone knew what to save. Every new survey, artifact, and recovered map brings the lost colony closer to history and farther from legend. No confirmed grave, village, document, or artifact has told us exactly what happened to all 115 settlers. What happened at Roanoke was not a supernatural disappearance. It was a human story whose ending was lost. Somewhere between Roanoke, Croatoan, and the inland forests, the answer may have existed for only a moment. The lost colony remains unsolved because the evidence allows possibility but refuses certainty. The most likely answer may be movement, survival, and assimilation, but likely is not the same as known. In 1590, John White found no colonists, no cross, and one carved word, Croatoan. A child named Eleanor Dare became a symbol of America's first unanswered question. She was also simply missing. The island is still there, the trees are still there, but the people who left that word are not. Croatoan was meant to guide someone home. Instead, it became the door that history never opened. Roanoke has no proven ending. Only evidence, silence, and a trail that disappears into the American coast. If you had found that carving in 1590, would you have followed it toward Croatoan or inland? Share your theory below. The best unsolved mysteries are not solved by noise, but by careful attention. For more true mysteries that refuse to close, follow void narratives. The next file is already